This is lesson 2, and in this lesson we'll be discussing subphylum Chelicerata. So just to start off our lesson, I'd like to talk a little bit about classification. In lesson 1, we learned about phylum Arthropoda and its general characteristics. So today we're in a subphylum of Arthropoda. We're in subphylum Chelicerata, and Chelicerata is a Greek word, and so the CH makes a K sound. The first class we'll be learning about is class Merostomata, and these are horseshoe crabs. You may have never seen these before. They are kind of a very unique animal, but they fit in subphylum Chelicerata. And then we'll be discussing class Arachnida. Now you may think Arachnida means spiders, and spiders are part of class Arachnida, but scorpions, mites and ticks, and daddy longlegs are also included along with spiders. So first we need to discuss general characteristics of chelicerates. And these are what groups these animals together. They have these things in common, and so they're in subphylum Chelicerata together. And the first thing all chelicerates have in common, they have 2 body segments. So this is a general drawing of a spider, but it fits with all chelicerates. They have 1, 2 body segments. In contrast, insects have 3 body segments, but all chelicerates have 2. And the first is called the cephalothorax. And the cephalothorax contains the brain, eyes, mouth, and walking legs. And then the next segment is called the abdomen, and that's where most of the internal organs are located. And just as a side note, chelicerates are lacking antennae that most other arthropods have, like insects and crustaceans. And so that's just another way or another reason they're grouped together. So here's the cephalothorax. It contains the mouth, the brain, the walking legs, and then here's the abdomen, which contains most of the internal organs. Nearly all chelicerates have 4 pairs of walking legs, and they come out of the cephalothorax and not the abdomen. So that's why I included this picture. This is just a drawing of what's supposed to be a spider, but you'll notice that the walking legs are coming out of the abdomen and not the cephalothorax, and that's incorrect. The legs come out of the cephalothorax. So here's a correct drawing of a spider. Here's the cephalothorax, and here are the 4 pairs of walking legs. You'll notice that this may look like a leg to you, or maybe even this, but they're different body parts and they're not used for walking, and we'll talk about them in just a second. So they have mouth parts called chelicerae, and the chelicerae contain fangs and are used to stab and in some orders paralyze the prey, and they are closest to the mouth. And then they also have mouth parts called pedipalps, and they are longer than the chelicerae and are used to grab prey. Here's that diagram again. Here's a chelicera, which is single for chelicerae. They are used to stab the prey and have fangs. And then these are the pedipalps right here. They are longer and they're used to grab the prey. And in some chelicerates, especially in spiders, they may be very long. And also in scorpions, they are very long and very modified. And you may think that they are legs, but they're not. They're not used for walking. They're not classified as legs. And so all chelicerates have just 4 pairs of walking legs, along with these pedipalps and the chelicerae. So now I'd like to talk about the 7 survival characteristics of chelicerates. And the first one is feeding. In general, all chelicerates are carnivores. They use their pedipalps to catch and their fangs to stab the prey. Now there are some exceptions to this. Some are detritivores, like there are some mites that eat dead things, and horseshoe crabs have been known to eat algae, but in general all chelicerates are carnivores. Here's a picture of a spider. Here are its chelicerae stabbing its prey, and then here are its pedipalps using to grab the prey. and then walking legs in the background. For respiration, aquatic chelicerates, like horseshoe crabs, have book gills. You can see the book gills here. The reason they're called book is because there are different layers that are very thin, like the pages of a book. And then terrestrial chelicerates use book lungs. And you can see that here. This is the underside of a spider. Here's one page of a lung. Here's another page, and another page, and another page. So this is the respiratory tissue in arachnids. Now, some spiders live under the water, but they still have book lungs. And what those spiders do is they grab a bubble of air that's kind of like a scuba tank, and they enclose it around these book lungs and then use it to breathe the air. And then they'll go up to the surface and grab water again, or grab a droplet of air again and bring it back down under the water. So all arachnids, all terrestrial living chelicerates have book lungs. Now for the rest of the 7 survival characteristics. All chelicerates have closed circulatory systems, just like all other arthropods. They excrete using Malpighian tubules, just like all other arthropods. They move by the muscles pulling on the exoskeleton, just like all other arthropods. They do have brain and eyes, but they don't have antennae for feeling. They do have modified bristles for touch. And then in reproduction, horseshoe crabs have external fertilization, and terrestrial species have internal fertilization, though indirect. There's actually a supplementary information page you can look at after this lesson that talks about how spiders reproduce. In general, male spiders they deposit a packet of sperm, and then they insert it into the female spider, generally using their pedipalps. So it's called internal because he inserts the sperm into the female spider, and it fertilizes the eggs internally inside the female. But it's called indirect because he doesn't directly insert those sperm using a copulatory organ. He drops a packet of sperm and then inserts it, and so that's why it's called indirect. So first, class Merostomata. Common name are horseshoe crabs, and despite their name, they are not true crabs. They are not related. They are not closely related to crustaceans. They have anatomy closer to spiders, and so that's why they're in subphylum Chelicerata. They have a long spike-like tail. They have 5 pairs of walking legs, and that's the big difference here. Horseshoe crabs have 5 pairs of walking legs instead of 4 like all other chelicerates. They respire using book gills, and they have external fertilization, which means that the female lays her eggs, and then the male will come by and deposit sperm on them, and they are fertilized outside of the female's body. So that's also different than all other chelicerates. They have external fertilization. Here's a picture of an underside of a horseshoe crab. You can see it's very, very heavily armored, 5 pairs of walking legs, but they also do have the pedipalps and the chelicerae, so that's why they're in subphylum Chelicerata. Some book gills down here and a long spiky tail. So now we're going to be talking about class Arachnida. We'll first talk about order Scorpiones. Common name, scorpions. In scorpions, the pedipalps are extremely modified and have grasping pinchers. In fact, they're very long, and you may think that they're legs, but they're not. They're pedipalps, and they've just been extremely modified. They have a narrow segmented tail with a venomous stinger. In general, scorpions are very dangerous because of that venomous stinger on their tail. And they are predatory, which means they hunt. They go after animals actively, and then they feed off of those animals. So here's a scorpion. 2 body segments. Cephalothorax, abdomen. Okay, this leg may look like it's coming off of the abdomen, but it's attached at the cephalothorax. Here are these pedipalps, and they are very long, and they look like legs perhaps, but they're not. They're very heavily modified pedipalps. Here are the chelicerae, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 pairs of walking legs. So the anatomy of a scorpion is definitely the anatomy of a chelicerate. And just an awesome random fact about scorpions: they glow when exposed to black or UV light due to a chemical in their exoskeleton. And so that's oftentimes how scientists find scorpions. They'll go out at night with a black light and shine it over an area, and if something is glowing this bluish green, they know that it's a scorpion. So our next order is order Acari. These are mites and ticks. In ticks and mites, the cephalothorax and abdomen are pretty much fused together, so it creates a body that looks like there's only one body segment. So it may look like it's just this one big round or oval circle, but there are still two body segments, kind of. They're just fused together. Ticks and mites have varied feeding patterns. Some are parasitic, like the deer tick that humans can get and that we worry about with Lyme disease. Some are predatory, meaning they go out and hunt. Some are herbivorous. There are lots of mites that can harm like crops that farmers have to worry about. And then some ticks and mites, particularly mites, are detritivores, and they eat your dead skin cells off of your face. And we'll see a picture of those. So the anatomy of ticks and mites, order Acari, is vast and different. You can see they look very different. Some are very spider-like. Some definitely look like ticks that you may have seen, especially here in Utah. Some mites have completely morphed into what look like blobs. And it's interesting to note that some of us may have mites that live on our skin and that eat our dead skin cells. It's very common to have mites that especially live in our eyebrows or on our eyelashes, and it doesn't mean that you are a dirty person or that you're not hygienic. They just live there. They don't harm you, but they live there and eat off your dead skin cells. So this fact, on a human body, there are 100 trillion cells, but only 10 trillion of those are human. Most of the other 90 trillion are bacteria, a few other parasites, fungi, and other creatures. So shown here is an eyebrow mite. So this is a chelicerate. You can see the 1, 2, 3, 4 pairs of walking legs, cephalothorax, really long abdomen, that lives in eyebrow follicles. And here, those are 3 of their rear ends sticking out of a human eyebrow follicle. So here's that eyebrow. Here's 3 mites living in an eyebrow follicle. So again, doesn't mean you're a dirty person if you have mites on your eyebrows. They live there and eat dead skin cells, and you'll never know that they're there. So now the big order, order Aranae. These are spiders. This is the largest group of arachnids, a very vast and diverse and very successful group. They are predatory carnivores, so just like scorpions, they capture and feed on other animals. And they do not have jaws for chewing. And so because of this, they have to liquefy their food to swallow it. So they paralyze their prey using their venom, and they inject digestive enzymes into it, which liquefies it, and then they suck it up. So just a note, all spiders have venom. They use it to paralyze prey. Not all spider bites are harmful to humans. You can get a spider bite. They do inject venom, and if it's not a harmful venom to humans, you won't notice it, or you might just get a bump or something that shows that you had a spider bite. But it's those deadly spiders like the black widow spider or the hobo spider that have venom that's dangerous to humans. So here's a spider injecting its fangs and using its pedipalps to suck this fly. 1, 2, 3, 4 pairs of walking legs, cephalothorax, abdomen. All spiders produce silk, whether or not they make a web with it. So not all spiders build webs, but they all do produce silk. Spider silk is very strong, and based on its weight, it's stronger than steel. So spider silk can carry a lot of weight based on its weight. Now, a steel beam is very heavy, and so it can support a lot of weight. But a spider silk, it's not very heavy, but it can support a lot of weight, like a spider climbing on a web, or an insect that's writhing around trying to get out of the web. So it is very strong. Um, Silk is also used for building webs, wrapping eggs up in cocoons, and wrapping up prey. And they just force liquid silk through their spinnerets, and it hardens into a single strand. And there is a video you can watch of a spider building a web of its silk coming out of its spinnerets. So this is a good picture too. Here are the spinnerets, silk coming out, and it's wrapping up its prey. You can also see kind of its web in the background. This is just a note at the end of this lesson, order Opiliones. These are daddy longlegs, and I know that there are some kind of misconceptions about daddy longlegs, so I just wanted to clear them up in this lesson. It almost looks like they have one body segment because the cephalothorax and the abdomen have been quite fused. They do have 4 pairs of walking legs, so it is a chelicerae. They're also called harvestmen sometimes, so they are not true spiders. Daddy longlegs are not spiders. Like I said before, their cephalothorax and abdomen appear to be one oval structure. They do not have venom glands, so that's what sets them apart from spiders in their chelicerae, so they don't pose a danger to humans. It seems like every couple of years you get this urban legend that daddy longlegs have the most harmful venom ever, but their mouths are too small so they can't bite you. That's not true. They don't have venom at all. And they don't have silk glands, which also makes them not spiders, so they don't build webs. So just in review, we learned about subphylum Chelicerata today, class Marostomata, horseshoe crabs, and in class Arachnida we have scorpions, mites and ticks, spiders, and daddy longlegs.